Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to ask a question. When was the last time you made something? This month? Last month? I mean, when you made something, I'm not talking about putting two pieces of IKEA together or making dinner or inflating an air mattress. When did you actually have a lot of little bits of pieces and you made it into something whole? Anyone? Have you been sewing, knitting, welding? Okay, I think then it's really time for you to pay a bit of attention here, and I hope to inspire you with this talk. I want you to understand that when you make something, that there's a total immersion in something where you can connect to an ultimate physical reality, and that actually what you're doing right now, everything is intermediate, and I hope that after this talk you'll be inspired to go back and to connect. Good afternoon, my name is Nora. I believe that we are what we make, and I recently started a company called Kollabora, and I want to bring that belief and practice into this world. And today I'd like to convince you of three things, let's see if you can follow me on those. The first one is that making is the new sex. And there's a reason why sex is called making love. Making is a holistic, attention-consuming, and defragmenting experience, and that's quite a rarity in our world. My second statement is that making can actually save the economies of the West because we're regaining skills to make things, and technology brings some of the efficiency gains of the China price to the ordinary household consumer. We will become more innovative and can get our factories back, basically one kitchen table at a time. And I think we heard that it's been here. We've been hearing this at this conference a lot, but basically the future of the internet is offline. The future of the internet is not the internet. People are going online to learn how to get back offline and how to do things with the physical world. And I'm going to show you why making matters so much and why I'm so passionate about it, or people who make, why are they so passionate about it. Some of you might like to stimulate yourself with a good Pinot Noir, with a beer, pot, cocaine, I don't know what you take. But people who make, they know it's the most scintillating drug. And this is me in a soapbox at a race, and I made this with some friends. We built it, my bicycle wheels are in it, we painted it and everything. And when we finished, we felt extremely satisfied. We had this rare sense of accomplishment. The kind of sense of accomplishment that you get when you hand in that paper in university, or when you finish this project, when you close your computer and you go off to your vacation. We live in a fragmented age. Most of you are doing many things at the same time. Right now, you're listening to me, at least I hope so. Are you listening? Can you say something? Are you listening? Yes. Thank you. You might be texting, you might be emailing, you might be tweeting, you might be checking your Facebook. You might make sure that you want to stay on top of this endless stream of activities that's going on. Making is that one rare opportunity where you can be singular and you can defragment your brain. Making is also about generosity, where skills are passed down from generation to generation, where the parent teaches the child gets a sweater, the parent gives a gift, and both create a bond. It's something really beautiful. And making might not be the oldest profession in the world, but it definitely is the oldest open source movement. And the next slide is actually one of my favorite slides, which shows you that making can be subversive and it can keep you sane. So what you see here is a sample of cross-stitching. You all know what's cross-stitching? You know, we do little crosses on a canvas. And this cross-stitch sampler was exhibited for 4 years in different German concentration camps of a prisoner. It was made by a prisoner of war called Major Alex Castagli. And he used an old sweater. He took the threads from an old sweater and made this canvas. And if you look very closely, there's a Morse code here. And remember, this was exhibited for 4 years in 4 different concentration camps. And this cross-stitching says, God save the king, fuck Hitler. And this Major Castagli, he actually taught 40 other British soldiers cross-stitching. And it was a tradition in the British Red Cross to teach soldiers quilting and cross-stitching. It was called the so-called trench art. Trench, you know, the ditches in the war where people stay. And it was believed and taught because it should overcome war trauma. Making is also about practice, it's about patience, it's about learning, it's about mastery, it's about acquiring skills. And you might have heard about the famous scientist K. Anders Ericsson, who says you need 10,000 hours in order to become an expert. Basically, anyone that practices something 10,000 hours can become an expert. And any kind of knitter or sewer, welder, woodworker, whatever, experiences this progress or this phase where you're trying to figure out something. It's first very frustrating trying to put these things together, and then you have to unravel. But it becomes highly pleasurable after a while, and then it becomes a big reward. There's actually a physical feeling to it when you finish something. Making is also an active way of thinking, and that leads to innovation. And a lot of experts, when they face problems, the experimenting, which is a form of making, unfolds new possibilities. And the ones who run companies or entrepreneurs, you understand that a lot of times you think like, how can this work? How can I do this? And then when you release your product and you see how people react, when you make it and when they interact, then you see actually what it means, and that's the new possibilities. And in our age of constant networking, I mean, this conference is one of these constant networkings and connections. It's actually a beautiful reminder that making is an old-fashioned way to be successful. I mean, knowing people doesn't really help you to how to make a desk. And what I always wonder is, you know, when you can't read, people call it illiterate. And you shouldn't graduate your kids from school if they can't read. But I think it's equally important to graduate our kids from schools and learn them how to make. And now I'm leading up to why making can be economically so interesting. And I'm going to show you a picture of two very successful makers. Who's that? Big question. Steve Jobs and Stephen Wozniak. They wanted to make computers. They also wanted to impress their fellow members. This is a picture taken in the Homebrew Computer Club in Palo Alto. You've probably seen that in the past few weeks after his death. This picture became very famous. But basically what I'm saying here, these people who were tinkering and trying out things and soldering, putting things together, two people who built a multi-billion-dollar company, basically the biggest company. It has the highest market cap, almost $530 billion before Exxon, who only makes it to almost $400 billion. These two people who are passionate about making things, they created this new industry, this big company. And so, going forward, I find it especially interesting when you put the following elements together. First of all, that there is a maker renaissance. And you can see it very clearly in the US, but I can see it happening in Berlin, in Hamburg, in Munich. I see maker spaces evolving, sewing clubs, knitting club, maker stuff, hacker spaces. So number one, the maker renaissance. But the other thing is that this maker community is becoming extremely social. And that's because of the help with the web. And when you remember it, Web 1.0, which kind of looked like that, Netscape, one of the old browsers, where it's just about consuming, about reading, about buying. When it became Web 2.0, which means it became social, it became participatory, this is what happened. That is what happened. It exploded. The web exploded. And this is why we're all here. And this is exactly what's going on in the maker culture right now. The maker culture has become social and is on its brink to explode and radically change the way we consume or maybe not consume anymore. So you all know Meetup, you know, we go online to find offline activities. Online is organizing activities and physical goods, and the making is actually a byproduct of the social web. So what changed, and I'm saying this again, is the social came into the maker world. And all of you have access. You go to YouTube and you find all your how-tos. But currently, we're still a bit disabled about that, right? China has made us forget how to make things. And that used to be different. This is a little sketching from the pre-industrial house, right? In the physical world, we started with making. In fact, we made everything. The house was the center of production. We would milk the cow, make the cheese, spin the wool, knit the underwear, whatever. And then, following the Industrial Revolution, there was a major social shift that occurred in the conception of the house. And what happened? We've passed over to a century of pure consumption. First, factories made that stuff in, all our countries. But then these factories, they moved to China. And over time, unemployment rose dramatically. And first, we were out of work, but we also lost our ability to make things. And we depend on other people to make things, and I think this is deeply disturbing. Imagine you have to depend on other people to talk. It's kind of like you're wiring your brain over to China and somebody is talking for you. It's a great outsourcing, and it's very efficient to do that, but you lost your ability to talk. Just please compare it like this with me. But guess what? Just like the web has become participatory, as I told you, in the physical world, there is a similar transition, and consumers are already starting now to become, they are prosumers already, where they're very conscious about what they're buying, but they're becoming makers. And I want to give you some examples about that. The MakerBot, are you familiar? Who's familiar with the MakerBot? Okay, this is a little revolution back there. These 3D printings, as you call it, used to cost $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. This one you can buy it for under $1,000. The guy who started this company got millions in fundraising. Within 2 years, has a company of 100 people selling thousands of these MakerBots that basically print anything you need, almost. For example, a banana peel, like that. Instructables you might have heard about, where you can learn how to do anything about everything. This got sold to Autodesk. You, of course, know about Etsy. Most people in Berlin probably know about Davanda. Etsy has 10 million members, 800,000 shops where people sell something. And basically, people are literally making a living, right? There's fairs like Maker Fair. I go to these quilting fairs and sewing fairs where there's on one weekend, 2 days, 50,000 people just coming there to learn and to buy fabric. 30,000 people. This Maker Fair, 100,000 people, one weekend, just people wanting to learn how to make things. The next one is coming up in a couple of weeks in New York. If you are there or want to come, tell me. Happy to show you around. Berta Style, first company I started for German publishing house, Berta. There's now 750,000 members just around sewing patterns. Almost 1 million people just interested in sewing. Ravelry, 2 million members. And it's entering the high fashion. PSI made this, or honestly, WTF, which are making any kinds of high fashion elements that you can basically wear. So in the beginning, people were making at home, closely following Industrial Revolution. Then China happened. But now the old household is coming back, but under a new model. People watching YouTube, asking questions on Facebook and forums, and then they can sell at Etsy. And that also led me and inspired me to form a company called Collabora. This is my world. And at my new company, people learn how to knit, to sew, make jewelry. They find inspiration, and they can buy the supplies to make something. There's a community to share. You can ask questions around things that you don't know how to make or when you're stuck with a project. People make their own fashion. They make what they wear. So making or craft knowledge has always been passed down from person to person. I showed you that picture with the mother and the child. So it was a very linear process, right? And slow. But the web right now can multiply it, can explode it, the spread of that knowledge around that. And everybody has access to it. And the sites and the networks that I just told you or showed you, they enable more and more people to make things. And more people will. More people will feel the sense of accomplishment of having a finished product, of having something physical, of feeling that tactility of material instead of just sitting all day long at your computer and typing and just seeing pixels on your screen. They will learn patience and acquire new skills and mastery. And this will contribute to innovation. And they will find happiness and sanity. It's very simple. And this will create new jobs and kick off a shift in the economy. It is deeply satisfying to make things. With industrialization, mass production, and outsourcing, that kind of making was taken from us. But now it will spread 1,000 times faster, and we have all the social tools that enable that. And I encourage you to stay on top in order to be part of this. When I was 12, I started sewing on my grandmother's Singer sewing machine. I made some hairbands, you know, the crunchies. I sold them at school, and I founded my first profitable business. And guess where it took me? 20 years later, this is the second company I'm founding, and it's a lot of fun. So I hope I could inspire you to make something or to look in this space a bit closer, because you are what you make, we are what you make. And if you have any questions or want to get in touch with me, this is my contact information. Thank you so much.